Hey yo, good morning, fam, and welcome back to another episode of Our Power with yours truly, Smooth Dre. Hey yo, the way things work is that I'll present with a topic and a brief description, and you guys can then jump into the comment section to express any views or that you may have or start conversations or even pose questions while we work together to keep this thing going and answer these questions as a team. We still trying to build this community, y'all. So remember to hit the subscribe button, like, and save. All right, before we get started, I'd like to say a couple of things. Things I say every morning. If you're interested in using a holistic alternative to facilitate good health, then go to akimisblends.com. That is AKEMISBLENDS.com. All right, that's where you can pick up your herbs and your vitamins based in sea moss, your bladderwracks, your burdock root, elderberry syrup, gel capsules, and gummies in the works. All right, go check it out. And if you're interested in getting that tight fit together, you know what I'm saying, some new designs, I got a creative brother over there named Biggie Brilly on IG, BIGGY BRILLY on IG, and Brilliantly Brilliant on Facebook. All right, so go check them out. All right, like to say good morning. What's up, Jamie? Good morning, Cecilia. Want to say good morning to everybody and thank everybody again for sticking with this. You know what I'm saying? Coming out here, coming on with me every morning, tuning in and everything. It means a whole lot to me. You know what I'm saying? Um, Today's topic, I want to touch on something that came to my mind when I saw the rain falling. It's been raining a couple days here where I am, and I noticed that some people say that when it rains, it kind of alters their mood. So I wanted to get into something that I deal with on a daily basis. It doesn't come every day, but every now and then it will come. And I'm clinically diagnosed with it. And I always talk about mental health being real. The stigma is almost off. Some people are still, ashamed of it, but hey, man, it's real, and it doesn't discriminate, and it can hit anybody at any given time. So I just wanted to, use this platform today to address depression. All right. And I don't know if anybody on the panel, you know, will is going through it or know someone who might be, or you might be experiencing it and don't even realize it. So we're gonna go on and we're gonna address this issue today. I've written down a few things that I do to combat this depression thing. And every now and then I'll bring up something, but I'd like to get some feedback from you guys to see what, if you're dealing with it, if you know anyone who might be dealing with it, and if you are, then what do you do to get through? Once you feel it coming on, what do you do to prevent it? And what do you do to deal with it? Okay, so let's get started. Um, all right. Depression is the topic. All right. The first thing that I want to say is that when I first get up in the morning, I always tell you guys that I fall on my knees and I pray. Okay. And that's how I combat anything that I'm going to face throughout the day. That knocks out a whole bunch of stuff that if I didn't do it, I wouldn't feel a certain way when I got up, and I wouldn't be able to, trudge through the day or flow through the day or what have you. Prayer changes things and it works. It just gives me like this feeling that I have on armor. You know what I mean? But sometimes some things come, that way I have to call on God anyway, and that's what I do. Or I use what God has put here for me, through other people, to use as tools to combat different things. I watch how I maneuver through life, and I watch who He has here for me to, to obey, because He works through people, He works through visions, He works through different situations. And if I'm trying to be spiritually fit, then I will see, what He's doing and the messages that He's leaving for me. If you understand what I'm saying. But the first thing I do to combat anything, including depression, is that I pray. All right. So you guys come on, tell me what you do. If you know anybody who's suffering from depression or dealing with it, I wouldn't say suffering, but dealing with it, let me know. Let us know, if you are, if you'd like, and what you are doing to deal with it or combat it, or any suggestions, even if you're not dealing with it. Just give us a suggestion of what you think a person who's dealing with depression could do to get through that. Okay? All right, I'm going to go to the board now. All right. Cecilia says, I was diagnosed with bipolar type 2, PTSD, anxiety. When you feel a certain way, I do something positive. Okay. Good morning, Greta. Greta says, good morning, everyone. Greta, today our topic is depression. In case you know someone who's going through it, you may be dealing with it yourself. We're just throwing out some things out there that people could do to possibly get through it, combat it, or just deal with it. So Cecilia says that um, she tries to do something positive. Well, yeah, that definitely could help, because when I'm out there and I'm doing things like with the community, like doing giveaways or just being involved and helping another person, that usually brightens my day up. So that's like a big deal. So that's a good point. Something positive to me would be something like that. Just being out there and making a difference in someone else's life, and keeping the focus off of myself, and because depression, when I'm depressed, the focus is all on me and woe is me and the pity party and everything. But if I'm out there doing something different and keeping the focus off of me and doing something for someone else, then that is an ideal way to keep that depression off of myself. So that's a good point, Cecilia. And she also agrees that prayer definitely works. I used to have major depression. I found ways to combat my mental health, like exercise. It releases serotonin levels. Okay. All right. I'm take your word for that. I do a little exercise, but I do hear that exercise does combat depression. And my doctor actually mentioned that to me as well. So she's giving me a list of things to do. So that's why I wanted to come on here and and share them with the panel, because you never know what a person may be going through, and sometimes they just don't talk about it, but they can still take what I'm saying or what I'm giving and use it, to deal with their situation, and what you guys have to offer to deal with their situation as well. No one is better to suggest anything to another person unless the person is going through it themselves. So I have, like I said, I have a list of different things that a person who's going through depression can do, and we're gonna get through it this morning. Anyone else? All right. Jamie says. Jamie says depression was something that I didn't know anything about. I wish I had though. Okay, yeah. Some people go through depression and don't even realize they're depressed. That's how it started out with me. I just used to feel like I would say, nah, man, I'm just gonna chill. I'm in a funk right now, right? And that's what I would call it, But I didn't connect it to anything, you know, um, chemically going on, in my brain or none of that uh, technical stuff with the serotonin or I didn't connect none of that because I didn't know anything, and I would just go through it and suffer with it without having any tools or any knowledge, to be able to deal with it or to even know how to deal with it. So not knowing is is dangerous, and if anyone feels like they're just in a funk one day or at certain times, like a lot of people say, when it rains, they feel a certain way. If you feel a certain way when it rains, or if you just feel down, every now and then, hey man, check it out. It could be something there. You know, um, Whenever if you feel like you're feeling down and you really don't have a reason to be down, like everything might be going okay, but you still isolated and you still, going through and feeling down and complaining and all that stuff, then go check yourself out. I believe, and I always say this, I am not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but my higher power, which I choose to call God, He works through those people, helps them through school, through whatever they got to get through, just so they can be in place when I need them. Okay? So I need to go to the people who study this stuff. Before that I pray, but then God works through them too. So I use everything that God's puts at my disposal. That's how I feel about it. So if it works for me, it can work for anybody. So I suggest it to anybody. Go see somebody if you're feeling down. It could make a whole big difference in your life. Um, let's see. Cecilia says, yes, it's real. I had several suicide attempts. My parents didn't even know I was depressed. They just knew I wasn't happy growing up. Wow. So, yeah, man, this thing is for real, and it could lead to suicide, unfortunately. I've known a couple people to attempt suicide, and I know a friend who has a family member who actually committed suicide. So this thing is for real. I'm so glad that that I went and I got help. Now, I wouldn't have just gone to get help, you know, just out of the blue. Like when I was out there just living this life of drinking and floating around and and just going wild buck wild out there, whatever I was doing, I wasn't thinking about seeing a doctor about anything. But it wasn't until God's grace brought me into treatment and then brought me to the VA, and I started to have a primary care doctor. I was assigned a primary care doctor. I was assigned a psychologist and a psychiatrist. It wasn't until then uh, that my health started to be monitored. Okay, once that happened, I surrendered to the whole thing. I made all my appointments, with every doctor, and lo and behold, they found some mental health issues with me. Okay, I always knew, well, not always knew, but they told me that mental health issues are usually connected with addiction. So that's why they assigned me the psychiatrist and the psychologist, and I was diagnosed back in 2012. So I've been dealing with it knowingly for about 11 years. So, and I mean, it can be managed. I go through certain things sometimes, but I am on certain medications that when I take them as prescribed, you know, I fight it. I can tell that, I'm not down like I used to be or as much. That I still have breakthroughs. What I mean by that, where depression breaks through, my medication sometimes, but generally, when I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I'm using these tools and these suggestions that I'm here this morning suggesting to you all, to use for yourselves or to tell a friend, I'm usually okay. And I'm gonna tell you another thing before I forget it. This is not something that I've written down, but a certain activity like um, a hobby, you know, a talent, something that you enjoy doing. You know what I'm saying? Arts and crafts. I know some people who love building things, doing things with their hands, and they battle depression that way. So doing music, writing songs, and going into the studio and living this life that I'm living, it it helps tremendously. Doing something that I love to do. So if you love to do something, try to line yourself up to continuously do that thing because it works for me. And if it works for me, then it can work for you. All right, let me go to the panel. All right. Good morning, Joanne. All right. Joanne says prayer works. We all agree with that. Let me see. She says, I'm not diagnosed, but I do have a severity. I do have it severely. I'm sorry. Okay, so I was just saying, if that is the case, if you know, excuse me, if you know that you may have it, then try to get checked out. But it was brought to my attention. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she said that depending on a person's situation, they may not be able to go and get help, and or they may not be able to afford to go and get help. Okay. And she says, so a platform like Our Power, could fill in the blanks, at least temporarily. But and so that made me feel, good about this platform. And but there is, I would still try to go get checked. There's a way to work the system to where because there's just a way, through a primary care doctor. Um, I don't know about the Obamacare, whatever. I don't know. I'm a veteran, so I get a certain care, and I know I'm blessed and I'm grateful. But if I didn't have this, then I would try to maneuver through the system. There has to be a way that if I'm suffering and with depression or any kind of mental disease, and it's making me feel a way, there has to be a way through the system to navigate through the system to be able to get to a doctor to either be diagnosed or to get treatment for something else. I don't know. But if you feel like you can't be seen because you can't afford it, or there's no way your situation don't call for it, I'm saying put that first. You know what I'm saying? Go and try and get seen. Okay? Because it's very important. Because there are too many situations where people are taking their own lives because they feel like no one is listening, or they may not have gotten through to a doctor, or they may have felt that they couldn't afford it. Yo, go and check it out. You know what I'm saying? So, a doctor, prayer is good, but God works through doctors, through psychologists, through psychiatrists. God works through everything, So go check it out. Go try to get seen. Um, Greta says you never know what that individual is going through. Exactly. And because you could see someone out here and they could seem like every time you see them, they're like up all the time. They're smiling. They're laughing. A lot of entertainers, and the irony of this is like a lot of comedians suffer with depression, and doing comedy is the way that they deal with it, and they love it. Like I said earlier, use your talent, use something that you like to do, and do it to combat it. But it's just ironic to me that these comedians are depressed, and it's not just one or two, it's like a lot of them, so um you never know. You know, I know people may look at me, and unless I tell them, they won't know that I suffer with depression. Because they don't see me. When they don't see me, it's something different. When I'm out, it's something different. But I'm doing better because, as I said, I am under a doctor's care, and I do take my medication as prescribed, as directed. So that helps me a whole lot. All right. So I'm gonna tell you another thing that helps too, and that doctor will help. But if you're not seeing a doctor, try to prioritize your sleep. Okay. Staying on a schedule, finding out what enough rest is for you, and getting that amount. I'm telling you, it will make a world of difference. Okay? Because you'll get up with a pep in your step. When you don't get enough sleep and you get up and you're thrown into responsibility, whether it be work, um, dealing with your children, getting them out to school, whatever. If you're not rested properly and you get up that way, then that affects you. Not having enough rest to like get through your day, or to get through that time, that affects you, and it affects your performance throughout the day at work. It affects your attitude. It affects your anxiety levels. So rest is very important, and that's why I say go see a psychologist and then a psychiatrist, because if you're having problems with sleep, they can prescribe something for you along with something to help you to get that amount of rest. So go check it out. If it didn't work, I wouldn't suggest it, but it's working for me, so I know it'll work for you. Go check it out. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. Jamie says, let me see who else is on the panel. Let me see. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Yes. Jamie says depression and ADHD goes hand in hand. Most definitely. Depression is linked with a lot of other mental disorders. It's like a byproduct of everything. You know, and so when you're treating that main thing, like I know, like with Cecilia being bipolar, they'll go in and they'll treat that bipolar, but then they know that depression comes along with it because having something, being diagnosed with something causes depression. It makes me feel down about myself because who wants to be diagnosed? Especially back in the day when people anything you're diagnosed with, people would just say you're crazy. And the people, what's crazy about that? The people who would be saying that other people were crazy, if they were to judge themselves, you know, and put themselves in the same light clinically as what who they were judging, if they were to get checked out, they would be crazy too. Some of them, but they were just calling someone else crazy because they hadn't been diagnosed. But hey, that was back then. Now we're not afraid of that, right? Mental health is for real and we got to deal with it. But depression is connected to all of the major I know a person who has schizophrenia and depression. It's all depression is always around. When you have a disease, a mental disorder, you feel down about it. Depression usually goes hand in hand with it, from what I have seen and experienced. So yeah, depression and ADHD goes hand in hand. Depression and bipolar goes hand in hand. Depression and PTSD goes hand in hand. I mean, depression is like, and then depression could just be there by itself. It's something else, man. And a lot more people are going through it than you would know. And you would never know by just looking at them. Because I don't know if you would have known if I would have ever told you that I suffer with that. So it's like it's a silent killer because it does kill. It does kill sometimes, especially if left untreated, you know. Um, so Cecilia says, yes, it's real. Okay, she said that. I remember that. That's earlier. Let's see. Never knows. I'm not diagnosed, but I do. Prayer works. Cecilia said, nailed it. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Cecilia says, everyone have a blessed day. Oh, she said earlier, that's me. To a comment I made. She has to go to group, so she's saying, um, have a good day, everyone. All right, you too, Cecilia. All right, I'm gonna move on and um and name something else, suggest something else that a person could do who's suffering with depression. Um, set goals, but If you set goals, this is what they told me. If you set any goals, Andre, set realistic goals. You know, don't set out uh, to climb Mount Everest. You know what I'm saying? Start climbing little hills first, cause that's more realistic, right? Don't go too far. Don't get up one day, just because I'm feeling a little better, and just say like, okay, I want to do something, and it's like this big thing. Set realistic goals. They told me, so I don't when I set those unrealistic goals, or those big goals that are too big, and then I don't achieve them, what do you think happens? I'm depressed because I didn't achieve the goal, but maybe I tried to make up for lost time, and set something real big, that probably wouldn't even be possible if I wasn't depressed, you know, um, and then feel like a failure and fall into a funk and make it worse all over again. So, Andre, set short term, realistic goals, something that I can accomplish and feel good about myself doing. All right. So, and also, I mentioned earlier about getting the proper rest. That brings something to mind. My psychologist tells me to avoid caffeine, during the day. Caffeine is in a lot of different things, so be aware of your caffeine intake, okay, throughout the day, so it doesn't interfere with your sleep at night, because that's what it does. That's why certain people drink coffee to stay up when they drive, when they're taking a test. Excuse me. People drink sodas full of caffeine to stay awake when they're doing things that they want to stay awake. So if you need your rest at night, then limit your intake of caffeine throughout the day. That's what they told me to do. And look, just because I can't drink, right? Or I choose not to drink, it doesn't mean I'm hating on anybody else, okay? Everybody's not an alcoholic like me. I just can't drink and stop. Period. Okay? I can't drink sociably and then stop. Okay? So I have a problem with alcohol. I'm an alcoholic who just chooses not to drink today, and has chosen not to drink by God's grace for the past 12 years and 7 months. But that doesn't mean everybody's like that. And I understand that. So I'm not like the alcoholic police, where I look at everybody and I judge everybody because they drink. But I'm saying, when you're dealing with depression, or if you think you may be dealing with depression, then alcohol is not a good drink, all right, to overindulge in. Okay, so limit your intake. A lot of people think that wine, a glass of wine to unwind, will help them go to sleep. Yeah, it'll help you go to sleep, but then it'll also be the culprit to wake you up before you get the proper amount of sleep. Okay, so be careful with the myths. If the only way you can get real solid sleep with alcohol is if you drink until you pass out. Then you might be out for a while. Take it from me. But you don't want to sleep that way, because you might not wake up for the kids. You might not wake up to go to work. You might not do nothing after that. Okay? So don't do that. I'm not saying do that. But limit your alcohol intake and I wouldn't drink it within the proximity of 3 hours to the time I'm going to bed. Okay, so or more, and don't overindulge. Okay, all right. Anything else from the panel? Let me check. See. Okay, Cecilia. Oh, you back. She says, me too. I'm an alcoholic as well. I can't have one either. Alcohol makes depression worse. Exactly. Because it is a downer. Some people, I put it this way. When I drank, I would drink alcohol to give me a boost. And it would. I would be up for all of 15, 20 minutes. And then I would feel myself coming down. And then I would drink more to try to get back to that level. But when it was all said and done, alcohol is a downer. Okay? And it does make depression worse. And it can cause depression. If I'm not suffering with depression, but I'm drinking a lot, right? Those downs that I have when I come down, that's depression. I could give myself depression by drinking too much. Now, I'm not real sure about that, but that's what I think. That's how I feel. Um, because of how it makes me feel when I do come down. Good point, Cecilia. Yep. So well, limit your alcohol intake. I'm not gonna say avoid it because you think I'm hating, because I can't drink. I'm good. But just limit it, watch it, see how it make you feel, and do what you think. All right. So, anyone else have anything? All right. I'm just gonna go down the list that I've created. Let me see. I said something earlier about volunteering to help others, getting out of myself. Any negative thoughts that I may have about me or have about my life, or those thoughts of where I think I'm supposed to be at this point in my life, things that, when I talk negative on myself, I need to avoid that. And I need to combat that with positive things, things that I'm grateful, for, you know, um, and grateful to have, instead of talking about what I don't have or who I'm not. I have to be grateful for who I am, and what I'm doing at this time in life, and not be so down on myself, and not be so hard on myself about my past. Cut that negative talk and that negative thinking out about myself, and usually all the things that I mentioned earlier are ways to combat that. Doing something that I love, um, going out and helping others, setting realistic goals, all those things could combat, because it'll take that time away of thinking about what I am not, which it would, when I should be grateful about, who God has made me, and I have to stay really connected to my high power, which I choose to call God. If I feel depressed throughout the day, or if I feel a certain way about anything, I simply ask God in the moment to please take that feeling away from me. And I always tell my friends, yo, what other time is there than now when I ask God to do something for Him to show up and show me that He's God? He does it every time. So when I say, God, please take this feeling away from me, that's what He does. All right. And if I have to keep saying it, then I keep saying it. All right. But I do say it. I have to be really connected to God, because that works. All these things work too, but if I'm not connected to him, um, I don't have a good overall feeling. That good overall feeling that I get from being connected to my higher power, which I choose to call God, it allows all these other things to work that He's provided for me. Okay? That's how I feel about it. And yo, just to remind you guys, you are here with Our Power, with yours truly, Smooth Dre. Remember to hit that like button, that share, and subscribe to the page if you like what you're getting when you come to this podcast each morning. You know what I'm saying? So do that so we could keep this thing going. All right. Another thing. Okay, let's see what Greta has to say. Greta says lots of people use alcohol and drugs as a band aid to cover up an issue they're going through without realizing that's only a temporary fix. Exactly. And you know what? And temporary in the extreme because it turns on it turned on me really fast. That's called self-medicating. Okay? I'm using street drugs to cover up an issue that it's like beating myself in the head because I have a headache. Okay? That's what that's like. Beating myself in the head with a hammer trying to combat a headache. All right? Because if I'm suffering with depression, yeah, that drugs and alcohol are very temporary, but it's really causing a lot more and it can lead to more extreme behaviors. And what I mean by that, I believe that that can actually lead even more to add to the suicide rate. Okay, because if I'm using drugs and alcohol and I'm depressed already, then that gives me that out of my mind feeling or that courage to do something crazy to just, you know what I'm saying? So no, that is no good. And some people do use it because they think that it helps, and it might, but eventually it will turn right on you. All right, so we're trying to give some suggestions out here today about how people can combat depression. And the next thing I want to say is that the way I try to do it is the way I try to combat depression too is by listening to music. You know, Smooth Dre's music. You know what I mean? But uplifting music. Something that will inspire me. A few artists out there have those inspiring lyrics, that inspiring music. That talks about feeling. It's like feel good music. That's what I do. I turn that on, put my headphones on, and I'll just chill with that. And it'll change my mood or add to my mood, to a better mood. you know um and the thing is also, this is very important. I believe in my life it is, when you have when you're suffering with anything, okay, whether it be depression, alcoholism, or whatever the case may be, it is very important for me not to isolate, okay? And it's even better if I find a group who's dealing with the same thing, a self-help group that I could go to and express how I feel about things, and then listen to someone else explain how they deal with that situation. These self help groups, they really work, and it helps to combat isolation. At one point when I had just gone through treatment, the only places I was going in the beginning were to meetings. Okay? I would go to meetings, I would hang out at the VA, shoot pool or whatever, waiting for the next meeting to go to. Um, and that kept me out of isolation because alcohol had painted me into a corner. Well, let me put it this way: my abuse of alcohol, I painted myself in a corner and I isolated myself because um, I had told so many people that I could stop whenever I got ready. Alcohol wasn't a problem. So I couldn't be around those people for them to see that I was defeated by alcohol. So I isolated. But after going through treatment and feeling that those groups, those meetings were helping me, that's how I would get out and combat isolation and be around other people who are going through exactly what I'm going through. So I it's good. It's a good feeling to know that I'm not in this thing by myself. And then eventually God works through other people to help me get through what I'm going through, and that's what it's all about. So go check out, if you're dealing with it, go check out a group where you could sit down and talk to them, express some things that you're going through, get some feedback, and get through. It works. I'm living proof that it works. All right. So that's another way. That's a big deal too. All right. You can. I also mentioned um doctors earlier that God works through, a psychologist. Sometimes you could set up an appointment. If you're not good with groups, then you could set up appointments where you could talk to an individual. If you can get that, if you can work that out, work the system if you have to. If you can't afford that, find out if they offer that in your community and go and try to sit down one on one with someone, or use the telehealth where they can call you, and you can look at them on the phone. You don't even have to go to the office. I mean, there's just so many different ways. So that's another one. If you don't like those groups, that you can get a one on one. Um, Also, I want to say there are times in my life where my relationships, when I didn't set boundaries, and I would go into a relationship. It didn't have to be you know, a, romantic relationship, but any kind of relationship, with friends, and I don't set boundaries, and I allow them to go too far, and then the friendship doesn't work, or I feel played, or disrespected, or someone ends up owing me something and they won't pay me back. That works on my nerves. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta avoid getting into these type of relationships. And if I do with any relationship, I have to set boundaries and I have to stick to them. When I see those boundaries being approached, I have to stop it right there, however that is. Remove myself, okay? Because my mental health is very important, and I can't let anybody destroy that. I can't allow that. There's anybody in my life that's working on my nerves, that's not in a line with what I'm trying to do, not in a selfish way, but if they're just not good for me, then I have to admit that and I have to make the moves that I have to make to protect my mental health, okay? To protect what I'm doing. so I can continue to feel good about myself. And I cannot use another person to make me feel good about myself. Okay? Because whatever that person did or said at that moment, or whatever, they exuded at that time, I can't depend on that to keep me happy. Okay? Because that might not stay there. It won't. It won't. Okay? I have to find something within me, with my God, to sustain my mental health and to combat depression or whatever I'm going through. I can't depend on another person to do that for me. Okay? So, when I got out of treatment, they told me, they said, don't get into a relationship. This is what they suggested for everybody. Don't get into a relationship. Get a plant or a pet. And if you can take care of that plant or pet for a whole year and it doesn't die, then you could think about getting into a relationship. Okay, so what they were telling me is that that was gonna show me how I should treat other people. How I should act in a relationship. You know, um, but what I'm suggesting is that if you get a plant or a pet, you know how they have those, those dogs that people with PTSD walk around with. I forget what they call them, but those special dogs that show you compassion. Um, a pet, a dog is a man's best friend. It's true. I have two of them. They're loyal. You know, um, they don't talk back, right? Yeah, pets and plants, just taking care of things, and having a routine, because I have a routine with my animals. I get up, let them out, boom, boom, spend time with them, show them this, show them that, play around, talk about them, and have fun with them. And that's a good getaway for me every time I do that. So it does work. It uplifts me because every time they see me, it's like it's the first time they've seen me. And it's like, and it's genuine. You can't really get that from people on a consistent basis like you can. Well, like I can my animals. Like I'm talking about my experience. I've never gotten anything that consistent from a human that I get from my pets. So getting a pet, if you don't want to, you know, have that responsibility, because I'll tell you, when you get a pet, they don't grow up and leave the household. Okay, you have to take care of them for the rest of their lives. All right, so it's just like having a permanent baby. So be careful with that choice. Get a plant. Water it every day. Talk to it, whatever. Just don't get caught talking to it. All right, that's another type of medication for that. Nah, I'm just kidding. But yeah, get a plant, get a pet, get a routine. You know what I'm saying? Get out the house. You know what I mean? Go to a movie. You know what I'm saying? That self help group I was telling you about, check them out, see if they have any activities going on. They usually do. They might go out to eat. Just get out. Just don't fall into that isolation thing. Okay? And when you do things, when you um be humble, but celebrate like small achievements. Anything that you do, and you feel, that you're proud of yourself. It ain't nothing wrong with patting yourself on your back for a little while. All right, be proud, but don't be cocky about it. All right, just be like, yo, you know what? I feel good about myself that I accomplished that. That's that short term goal, that realistic goal I was talking about earlier. Now you've accomplished it. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Jamie says that's right. All right, I appreciate that. They don't talk back. They don't talk back. That's right. Yeah, they don't talk back like humans. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, pet is good to have. But yeah, get out there, enjoy life. Do some things. Try something new. You know, um, and don't just sit around and let that depression overwhelm you. You know what I'm saying? um explore new things. You might have certain things that you like. You might want to try something new. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to combat this depression thing. you know um some people, they go back to school. you know it's about set, and that creates a routine. Something that a person is interested in. They may go back to school. They might, get a different degree or something like that. You know, it's limitless what can be done, to combat this thing. But it's just about getting out there and doing it. And then when I get stressed out, because anxiety is connected with depression as well, or depression is connected with anxiety. So when I feel anxiety, sometimes I gotta step back and take a deep breath. You know what I'm saying? And just chill, and say the serenity prayer. The serenity prayer? Check it out. I'm going to give you something today. It says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay? I say that when I'm stressed. All right? I'll say it real quick. I'll say it long and slow. I'll take a deep breath and I remove myself from the situation. Okay? And in that serenity prayer, it says, accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay? So go run this thing back, write it down, learn it, and that could be helpful to you, combating depression or whatever. When that panic, when those anxiety attacks come, you know, then you can use that. And don't be so hard on yourself, as I said earlier. I don't like to use the excuse that, nobody's perfect. I try to just strive for progress, make spiritual progress and not strive for perfection. You know what I'm saying? Because that's unachievable. There's only one perfect, all right? And that's my high power, which I choose to call God. So I just strive to make progress on a spiritual level, all right? So, yo, I hope everybody enjoyed the show today. You know what I'm saying? Tell a friend, share this thing, hit that like, um, and subscribe. All right. Feel that this was a very important message today. That's what we do here. It's a healing platform. We promote peace and freedom. And you could get this again tomorrow if you join us at 6 a.m. in the morning at the Hour Power with yours truly, Smooth Dre. And yo, y'all have a beautiful day. One.